Chicago had stopped breathing. Not literally, of course, but on that December evening, with the wind howling like a wounded animal and snow falling so thick it erased the skyline, the city felt suspended between one breath and the next. The kind of cold that doesn't just chill your bones, it reminds you how alone you really are. Evelyn Hartman sat in the corner of Le Vieux Chêne, the small European bistro she'd claimed as her own every Christmas Eve for the past 7 years. Same table, same wine, same empty chair across from her. At 61, she'd built an empire that most men half her age envied. Hartman's Solutions Group wasn't just successful, it was legendary. Fortune 500 companies called her when they needed someone who could see around corners, who could make the impossible merely difficult. She'd restructured corporations, saved thousands of jobs, created wealth that trickled down through entire industries. But tonight, like every night, she ate alone. The restaurant was nearly empty. Smart people were home with their families, or at least pretending to have somewhere they belonged. Evelyn watched the maitre d' nervously eye the storm through the frosted windows. She'd heard him whisper to the waiter about closing early, about the roads becoming impossible. She didn't care. Where exactly was she rushing to? That's when she saw them. At first, they were just shadows against the whiteout, a figure bent against the wind, moving with desperate determination. Then, the streetlight caught them for just a moment, and Evelyn's hand froze halfway to her wine glass. A woman, maybe early 30s, was using her own body as a shield, wrapped around a small child who couldn't have been more than 4 years old. The woman's coat, and Evelyn could see even from inside that it wasn't nearly warm enough, flapped open because she'd wrapped it around the boy instead of herself. Her hands, bare and red, held him against her chest as they struggled forward through drifts that came up to the child's waist. They weren't asking for anything. They weren't stopping. They were just trying to survive the next block. But then the boy turned his head, and his eyes found the restaurant window, found the warm golden light, found Evelyn. Most children would have looked with longing, with that heartbreaking hope that children carry like a birthright. But this child looked different. He looked at that warm room full of white tablecloths and crystal glasses the way an old man looks at a photograph of someone who died decades ago. Not with hope, with recognition that some things simply aren't meant for people like him. He was 4 years old, and he'd already learned that lesson. Something cracked inside Evelyn's chest, something she'd carefully sealed years ago, when she'd learned that feeling too much made the necessary decisions impossible. The woman pulled the boy closer, turned her back more firmly to the wind, and they disappeared into the white curtain of snow. Heading nowhere, heading anywhere, just moving because stopping meant freezing. Evelyn's hand was shaking. She set down her wine glass carefully, watching the dark liquid tremble in concentric circles. Around her, the restaurant hummed with low conversation, with the clink of silverware against porcelain, with all the sounds of civilized comfort. Outside, a mother and child fought for survival against a storm that didn't care about fairness or second chances. She'd made thousands of decisions in her career. Hired, fired, restructured, optimized. Every choice backed by data, by market analysis, by the cold logic that had made her rich and respected. She'd never hesitated, never looked back, never questioned whether the numbers on a spreadsheet represented actual human lives that would be upended, scattered, destroyed. Until this moment, she'd never actually watched someone struggle with the consequences of decisions like hers. What happened next? I need you to see it for yourself. Before we continue, I want to say something from the heart. If stories like this bring you comfort, reflection, or hope, consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. When you do that, you're not just clicking a button, you're helping this work continue, helping these stories reach other people who may need them today. And tell me in the comments where in the world you're watching from, which city and country. I believe this story found you today for a reason. Evelyn stood up. She didn't plan it, didn't think it through, didn't calculate the risk or the optics or what it might mean. Her body simply moved, propelled by something more ancient than logic, more powerful than caution. She grabbed her coat, cashmere, lined with silk, worth more than most people's monthly rent, and headed for the door. Madame Hartman? The maitre d' looked alarmed. The storm. I'll be right back, she said, and her voice sounded strange to her own ears, urgent, almost desperate. She pushed through the heavy door and the cold hit her like a physical blow. The wind screamed. Snow stung her face like tiny needles. She could barely see 5 feet ahead. For a moment, panic seized her. They were gone, swallowed by the storm, and she'd lost her chance to do this one spontaneous, illogical, completely unnecessary thing. Then she saw them. They'd made it maybe half a block. The woman had stopped, pressing herself and the child into a doorway, trying to catch her breath, trying to figure out what came next, trying to be brave for a little boy who was crying now, not loudly, but with the quiet despair of someone who knows crying won't help. Evelyn's expensive heels slipped on the ice. She caught herself, kept moving. When she was close enough, she called out, her voice nearly lost in the wind. Please, wait! The woman turned, and Evelyn saw her face clearly for the first time. Young, but hardened. Pretty, but marked by the kind of exhaustion that comes from months of impossible choices. Protective, suspicious, prepared to run if necessary. Her arms tightened around the boy. I'm not. Evelyn had to shout over the wind. I saw you from inside. Please. Come in. Get warm. Just for a little while. Please. We're fine, the woman said, but her voice cracked on the lie. The boy was shaking so hard his teeth chattered audibly. You're not fine, Evelyn said, and something in her voice must have conveyed that she understood, really understood, what not fine meant. And I'm not asking you to owe me anything. I'm asking you to get that child out of this storm before we're all 3 frozen statues. That's all. Just warmth. Just food. No strings. No questions. I promise. The woman stared at her. Evelyn watched her weighing options, calculating risks, trying to determine if this stranger represented a different kind of danger. The boy looked up at his mother, then at Evelyn, then back at his mother. His lips were blue. Mama, he whispered. I'm cold. The woman's face crumpled for just a second before she controlled it. That's what decided her. Not trust, not hope. Just the simple biological imperative of a mother who couldn't keep her child warm anymore. Just for a few minutes, she said, until the storm. However long you need, Evelyn interrupted. Come on. She turned and headed back toward the restaurant, not looking behind her, giving them the dignity of making their own choice. After a moment, she heard footsteps crunching in the snow behind her. Something loosened in her chest that she hadn't realized was clenched. The maitre d's eyes widened when Evelyn walked back in with her unlikely guests. She saw his glance toward the phone, toward the manager's office. She met his eyes and shook her head once, sharply. This was happening. He could adjust. My guests, she said simply, will need the private room in the back. Immediately. The private room was where she usually entertained board members, where deals worth millions were negotiated over wine that cost more per bottle than most people's car payments. Tonight, it would serve a different purpose. The woman stood just inside the doorway, dripping melting snow onto the hardwood, looking like she wanted to bolt. The boy pressed against her leg, his eyes enormous, taking in the chandeliers, the artwork, the impossible luxury of it all. I'm Evelyn, she said, keeping her voice gentle. What's your name? The woman hesitated so long that Evelyn thought she might not answer. Finally, Lena, this is Noah. Lena, Noah. Evelyn smiled at the boy, who immediately looked away. I'm very glad you're here. Come on, let's get you warm. She led them to the private room, where a fireplace crackled and threw dancing shadows on the walls. The moment they crossed the threshold, Noah's shaking intensified, not from cold now, but from the shock of sudden warmth after too long in the freeze. Lena caught him as his knees buckled, scooped him up, held him close. "It's okay, baby," she murmured. "We're okay now." But she was crying, Evelyn noticed, silent tears streaming down her face as she held her son. Not tears of relief, tears of something more complicated. Shame, maybe. Or grief for how far they'd fallen. Or rage at a world that let children freeze while the wealthy ate foie gras behind glass. Evelyn understood every one of those tears. "Let me help you with your coats," she said, and carefully, as if approaching a wild animal, she helped Lena peel off the inadequate jacket. Underneath, Lena wore a sweater that had been nice once, maybe years ago. Noah's clothes were cleaner than seemed possible. Lena had been keeping her son's dignity intact, even as everything else fell apart. A waiter appeared at the door, and Evelyn ordered without consulting them. Hot soup, bread, main courses. She chose things that would warm them from the inside out, that would be easy on stomachs probably unused to rich food. She added hot chocolate for Noah without asking. When the waiter left, silence filled the room except for the crackling fire. Lena sat perched on the edge of her chair, ready to run. Noah had curled into her side, his eyes never leaving Evelyn, trying to figure out what kind of person she was, whether she was safe. "You don't have to tell me anything," Evelyn said, "about how you ended up out there, where you're going. None of it. This isn't an interrogation, it's just dinner." "Why?" Lena's voice was hoarse. Why are you doing this?" It was a fair question. Evelyn considered it. Why had she? "Because I saw your son's face," she said finally, "and I couldn't not." The soup arrived first, and Evelyn watched Noah's eyes go wide. It was French onion, rich, dark broth covered with melted Gruyere that stretched like golden ribbons when you lifted the spoon. The kind of thing that costs $30 and feels like liquid comfort. The waiter set it down carefully, along with a smaller bowl for Noah that had been cooled to a safe temperature. Lena stared at it like it might disappear if she blinked. "Go ahead," Evelyn said softly. "Please." Noah looked up at his mother, waiting for permission. That small gesture, that automatic deference to her authority despite his obvious hunger, told Evelyn more about Lena than any words could have. She was raising him right, even in impossible circumstances. She was teaching him manners, patience, respect. She was keeping him human in a situation designed to strip away humanity. Lena nodded, and Noah picked up his spoon with both hands. His first taste was cautious, testing. Then his eyes closed, and he made a small sound of pure pleasure. It broke Evelyn's heart. "Good?" Evelyn asked. Noah nodded, already taking another spoonful. Lena ate more slowly, deliberately, but Evelyn could see her fighting the urge to inhale it, fighting to maintain dignity, fighting to prove she wasn't what people assumed homeless people were, desperate, undisciplined, less than. "How long?" Evelyn asked, then immediately regretted it. "I'm sorry, I said no questions." 3 months, Lena said quietly, not looking up from her soup. "We've been on the streets for 3 months. 3 months, through fall and into winter, through Halloween and Thanksgiving, and now Christmas Eve." Evelyn thought about her own last 3 months, board meetings, charity galas, a weekend in the Hamptons, her annual physical where her doctor had praised her excellent health. While she'd been living that life, this woman and child had been fighting to survive every single day. "Before that?" Evelyn asked, unable to stop herself. Lena was quiet for so long that Evelyn thought she wouldn't answer. Then, "We had an apartment. Nothing fancy. Park Ridge, just outside the city. I worked as a legal assistant, Noah went to a good preschool. We weren't rich, but we were okay. We were managing. Past tense. All of it in past tense. What happened? Lena's jaw tightened. My ex-husband happened. Or rather, what happened to him happened to us. He worked in tech, software engineer. He was good at what he did, really good. He loved it. She paused, took another spoonful of soup like she needed the fortification. Then his company did a restructuring. He got cut, just like that. 23 people let go on a Tuesday morning. They gave him 2 weeks severance and a box for his desk. Evelyn's hands went cold. She knew that story. She'd written that story dozens of times. Restructuring, optimization, streamlining, all the corporate words that meant the same thing. You're out. He tried to find something else, Lena continued. But the market was tight, and he started changing, getting angry, drinking, blaming me, blaming Noah, blaming everyone except the people who'd actually destroyed his career. 6 months after he lost the job, he left, just packed a bag and left. No child support, no forwarding address, nothing. Noah had stopped eating. He was listening, even though he'd probably heard this story before. Even though he was living it, I tried to hold on, Lena said. I picked up extra hours. I cut every expense. But legal assistants don't make enough to cover Chicago rent alone. And then Noah got sick, just a bad flu. But I had to miss work to take care of him. They fired me, said I was unreliable. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. Unreliable, because I took care of my sick child. The eviction came 30 days later. I had some savings, but not enough. I called every shelter in the city. They're all full. There's a waiting list months long. I called every friend I had. Some helped for a while, but people have their own problems, their own families. You can't blame them for getting tired of someone else's crisis. Evelyn wanted to interrupt, to say something comforting, but what could she say? That it would be okay, that things would work out. How did she know? What evidence did this woman have that the universe gave a damn about her or her son? So we ended up here, Lena finished, sleeping in shelters when there's room, in my car when there's not, except the car died 2 weeks ago. After that, she gestured vaguely, we've been figuring it out. Figuring it out. Such a gentle phrase for sleeping in doorways and begging for food and keeping a 4-year-old alive through a Chicago winter with nothing but determination and love. The main course arrived. Roasted chicken with herbs for Lena and Evelyn, and butter noodles with grilled chicken strips for Noah. Simple, but prepared with the kind of care that made simple food transcendent. Evelyn had ordered bread too, lots of it, and she watched Lena wrap several pieces in a napkin when she thought Evelyn wasn't looking, saving them for later, for tomorrow, for the next day when there might not be food at all. Evelyn pretended not to notice. My mama takes care of me, Noah said suddenly. His voice was small but fierce. She's the best mama in the whole world. Lena's eyes filled with tears. Oh, baby. She reads me stories even when we don't have books. She makes up songs. She tells me about when I'm bigger and we have a house again and I can have a puppy. He looked at Evelyn with absolute seriousness. I'm going to name him Thunder. Thunder is an excellent name for a puppy, Evelyn said, and her voice only cracked a little. They ate in silence for a while. The fire crackled. Outside, the storm continued its assault on the city. Inside this small room, there was warmth and safety, and something that felt almost like peace. What about you? Lena asked suddenly. Are you here alone on Christmas Eve? Evelyn hesitated. Her instinct was to deflect, to keep the focus on them. But Lena had been honest. She deserved honesty in return. Yes, she said simply. I am. No family. No, I was married once, a long time ago. It didn't work out. We both cared more about our careers than each other. After the divorce, I just kept working, building, acquiring. I told myself there would be time for personal life later, but later never came. You have a company? Lena said. It wasn't a question. I do. Hartman Solutions Group. We do corporate consulting, restructuring, efficiency optimization. The words felt like ash in her mouth suddenly. We help companies become more profitable. She watched Lena's face carefully, but saw no recognition, no connection. Why would there be? Lena's ex-husband had worked for a tech company. Evelyn worked with hundreds of companies across dozens of industries. The odds that there was any connection were. Do you have children? Noah asked. The question landed like a stone in still water, sending ripples through the conversation. No, Evelyn said. I don't. Why not? Noah, Lena said quickly. That's not polite. It's okay, Evelyn said, though it wasn't, not really. I guess I thought I had time, and then I didn't. I chose my career instead. I told myself I was building something important, something that mattered. But now, she looked at Noah, at his serious little face, at the way he leaned into his mother like she was the only solid thing in an unstable world. Now I'm not sure I chose right. Noah considered this with the gravity of a much older person. Then he said, You helped us tonight. That matters. Out of the mouths of babes. Evelyn felt something crack wider in her chest, that thing that had started breaking when she first saw them in the storm. Do you want to know what I think matters? Noah continued, warming to his subject. My mama matters, and Thunder matters, even though I don't have him yet. And stories matter. And when people are nice to other people, that matters too. Noah's very philosophical, Lena said with a small smile. He thinks about things. I can see that, Evelyn said. She signaled the waiter. Would you like dessert? They make an excellent crème brûlée here. Lena started to refuse. Evelyn could see it in her face, the automatic impulse to not take more than absolutely necessary. But Noah's eyes lit up with such hope that she couldn't. Just small portions, Lena said. The crème brûlée arrived in individual ramekins, the sugar top caramelized to perfection. Noah tapped his spoon against it, delighted by the crack, the way the crisp surface gave way to creamy custard underneath. He ate slowly this time, savoring every bite, making it last. Evelyn watched them and felt a strange sensation, like waking up from a very long sleep. When was the last time she'd eaten a meal and actually enjoyed it? When was the last time food was anything more than fuel, a necessary pause between conference calls? When was the last time she'd sat with people who weren't trying to sell her something or buy something from her, who were just present? Can I ask you something? Lena said, and her voice was careful. Why did you really bring us in here? I mean, I'm grateful. God, I'm so grateful. But people don't usually... She gestured around at the elegant room. And people don't usually do this. Evelyn thought about it, really thought about it. I saw your son's face, she said finally, through the window. And he wasn't looking at the restaurant with hope. He was looking at it with acceptance, like he'd already learned that good things weren't for him. He's 4 years old, and he's already given up on certain possibilities. And I thought, her voice caught, I thought, that's wrong. That's fundamentally wrong. No child should look at the world that way. So this is charity, Lena said, and there was no accusation in it, just understanding. No, Evelyn said firmly. This is recognition of shared humanity, of the fact that you could be me and I could be you, and the only difference is luck and timing and 1,000 small decisions that compound over time. This is me acknowledging that I've spent my whole life making decisions from a distance, dealing with numbers instead of people. And tonight, I wanted to do something that actually mattered to someone real. Lena looked at her for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. Thank you, she said, for seeing us, for treating us like people instead of problems. Noah had finished his dessert. He was fighting to keep his eyes open now, warm and fed and safe for the first time in who knew how long. Lena pulled him close, and he nestled into her side. "We should go," Lena said softly. "The shelter might still have room if we hurry." "Wait," Evelyn said. She pulled out her phone, opened her banking app. She transferred money, more than she probably should, but less than she easily could, to a temporary account. Then showed Lena the details. "Take this. Get a hotel room for the night, a real one, with a real bed. Stay warm." Lena stared at the number on the screen. "I can't." "You can, please. Consider it a Christmas gift. No strings, no expectations, just a safe place to sleep tonight." Lena's hands were shaking. I don't know what to say." "Say you'll take care of yourself and that beautiful boy. That's all I ask." As they prepared to leave, Noah reached into his pocket and pulled out something small. He held it out to Evelyn with both hands, ceremonial. "For you," he said, "because you were nice to us." It was a small plastic figure, a dinosaur, worn smooth from being carried in his pocket. The kind of thing that was probably his most precious possession, maybe his only possession beyond the clothes on his back. "Noah, no," Lena said quickly. That's your—" "It's okay, Mama," Noah said. "She needs it more than me right now." Evelyn took it carefully, cradling it in her palm like the treasure it was. "I'll take very good care of him," she promised. "It's a her," Noah corrected. "Her name is Ruby." "I'll take very good care of Ruby," Evelyn amended. They left then, bundled back into their inadequate coats, but with the hotel information on Lena's phone and enough money to last a few nights at least. Evelyn watched them go, watched them step back into the storm that had lessened but not stopped. She sat back down at the table, alone again. The private room suddenly felt enormous and empty. She looked down at the small plastic dinosaur in her hand. It was a T-Rex, bright red, with scratches that suggested many adventures. On the bottom, in permanent marker faded but still legible, was writing. She turned it over to look closer, and her world stopped. The writing was a phone number, and under it, in a child's careful letters, Daddy's work. And under that, a name she recognized, a company she knew, because it was her company, not hers personally, but a company she'd consulted for 2 years ago, a tech firm in the western suburbs. They'd hired Hartman Solutions Group to streamline operations, to cut costs, to maximize efficiency. She'd presented the findings herself at the board meeting. 23 positions to be eliminated from the software engineering department. She'd shown them the numbers, the projections, the improved profit margins. She'd made it clean, clinical, necessary, and one of those 23 names had been this child's father. Evelyn's hands were shaking so hard she nearly dropped the toy. She set it down carefully on the white tablecloth. The small red dinosaur seemed to glow in the firelight, accusatory. A piece of a man's work life that had made its way into his son's pocket and now into the hands of the woman who had destroyed everything. She hadn't known. How could she have known? They were just names in a spreadsheet, just positions to be eliminated, just unfortunate necessities in the pursuit of corporate health. Except they weren't. They were Lena's ex-husband. They were Noah's father. They were the first domino in a chain reaction that led to drinking, to anger, to abandonment. That led to eviction and homelessness, and a 4-year-old child learning to expect nothing good from the world. And she had pushed that domino. The waiter knocked softly on the door. "Madam Hartman, is there anything else you need?" Evelyn looked up at him. She wanted to say yes. There was something she needed. She needed to undo the past. She needed to unmake that decision. She needed to look into the eyes of every person she'd ever reduced to a line item on a spreadsheet. But all she said was, "No, thank you, just the check." She paid, adding a tip that made the waiter's eyes widen, and gathered her things. The small red dinosaur went into her coat pocket, where she could feel it pressing against her ribs with every breath. A small weight, a massive burden. Outside, the storm had finally broken. The snow was tapering off, revealing a city transformed into something white and clean and deceptively beautiful. Evelyn stood on the sidewalk, breath steaming in the cold air, and looked up at the sky. Somewhere out there, Lena and Noah were checking into a hotel room. They were safe, for tonight at least, but tomorrow, next week, next month? And more importantly, how many other families were out there, struggling with consequences of decisions Evelyn had made from a comfortable conference room, backed by PowerPoint slides and profit projections? She pulled out her phone, scrolled through her contacts, found her assistant's number. "Gloria," she said when the woman answered, sounding surprised to hear from her boss on Christmas Eve. "I'm sorry to bother you on the holiday, but after Christmas, I need you to pull some files for me. Old consulting projects. I need names, all of them. Every person who was let go as a result of our recommendations. Every restructuring. Every optimization. It's going to be thousands of names going back years." That's a massive project, Miss Hartman," Gloria said carefully. "It could take days, maybe a week to compile everything properly. What exactly are you looking for?" Evelyn looked down at her pocket, where the small dinosaur rested against her heart. "Consequences," she said simply. "I'm looking for consequences. Start on it the day after Christmas. I need this as soon as possible. Of course, I'll begin first thing on the 26th. Evelyn ended the call and sat back in her chair. The small red dinosaur sat on the white tablecloth in front of her, its faded red paint catching the firelight. She picked it up carefully, turning it over again to read the writing on the bottom. The name of the company, the date, the phone number written in a father's hand, probably so his son could call him at work. A father who no longer had work to be called at, because of her. The waiter knocked softly on the door. "Madame Hartman, is there anything else you need?" Evelyn looked up at him. She wanted to say yes. There was something she needed. She needed to undo the past. She needed to unmake that decision. She needed to look into the eyes of every person she'd ever reduced to a number on a spreadsheet. But all she said was, "No, thank you, just the check." She paid, adding a tip that made the waiter's eyes widen, and gathered her things. The small red dinosaur went into her coat pocket, where she could feel it pressing against her ribs with every breath. A small weight, a massive burden. Outside, the storm had finally broken. The snow was tapering off, revealing a city transformed into something white and clean and deceptively beautiful. Evelyn stood on the sidewalk, breath steaming in the cold air, and looked up at the sky. Somewhere out there, Lena and Noah were checking into a hotel room. They were safe, for tonight at least, but tomorrow, next week, next month? And more importantly, how many other families were out there, struggling with consequences of decisions Evelyn had made from a comfortable conference room, backed by PowerPoint slides and profit projections? She walked to her car, the city silent around her in that peculiar way it gets after a heavy snow. Everything muffled, everything waiting. As she drove through empty streets toward her penthouse in the Gold Coast, Evelyn made a decision. This wasn't going to be another moment of brief guilt that faded with time. This wasn't going to be something she threw money at and forgot. This was going to change everything. She just had to figure out how. The days between Christmas and New Year's blurred together in a way Evelyn had never experienced. She couldn't work, couldn't focus on anything except the small red dinosaur that now sat on her dining table and what it represented. She'd tried to sleep Christmas night but couldn't. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Noah's face pressed against that restaurant window, saw Lena using her body as a shield against the wind, saw Marcus Brooks, a man she'd never met, receiving the news that his position had been eliminated, saw the dominoes falling, one after another, from that conference room decision to a 4-year-old child learning that the world held nothing good for him. On December 26th, true to her word, Gloria began compiling the files. She called Evelyn that afternoon. "Ms. Hartman, I've started pulling the data, but I need you to understand the scope of this. We're talking about 15 years of consulting projects, hundreds of companies, thousands of individual terminations. This is going to take at least a week, maybe more, to compile comprehensively. I understand. Take whatever time you need to do it right. I want every name, every company, every date. May I ask what this is for? Evelyn looked at the dinosaur on her table. I'm trying to understand the full cost of what we've built. Gloria was quiet for a moment. I'll have a preliminary report to you by New Year's Eve. The complete database will take longer. Thank you, Gloria, and I'm sorry for ruining your holiday. You didn't ruin anything, Miss Hartman. To be honest, I've been waiting for you to ask questions like this for a long time. The comment haunted Evelyn for days. Had everyone around her seen what she'd been blind to? Had they all been quietly carrying the weight of what their work cost real people? She spent the next few days doing her own research. She started with Marcus Brooks specifically, since she had his name. Found his LinkedIn profile, last updated 2 years ago, still listing his position at the tech company, still optimistically noting he was seeking new opportunities. Found an old Facebook page that hadn't been touched in 18 months. The last post was a photo of Noah as a toddler, caption reading, "My little man, we're going to figure this out, buddy, Daddy promises." Promises meant nothing when the system broke you. She searched deeper, found that after he'd left Lena, Marcus had moved to Indiana. There was a 6-month employment record at a smaller tech company in Indianapolis, but it had ended abruptly. The last address she could find was a rooming house in Gary, Indiana, dated 8 months ago. After that, the trail went cold. No social media updates, no employment records, no forwarding address. He'd simply vanished into the cracks that swallowed people who fell too far. Evelyn made notes, documented everything. She was building a case, though she wasn't sure yet what kind. By New Year's Eve, Gloria sent over the preliminary report. Evelyn sat at her dining table and opened the file. The list seemed endless. Name after name after name. Each one representing a person whose life had been disrupted by decisions she'd made from a comfortable conference room, backed by data and projections that never accounted for human cost. She searched for Marcus Brooks in the database and found him. Marcus James Brooks, software engineer, eliminated in restructuring recommendation November 2022. Age at termination, 34. Years with company, 6. Performance rating, exceeds expectations. Reason for elimination, department consolidation and cost optimization. Exceeds expectations. He'd been good at his job, and they'd cut him anyway because the numbers said it made sense. Evelyn closed her laptop and looked out at the city. Somewhere down there, Lena and Noah were still in that hotel room she'd paid for, or maybe they'd found something more permanent. She hoped they were safe. She hoped they were warm, but hope wasn't enough. She needed to do something real, something lasting. That afternoon, she did something even stranger. She took the train, the actual CTA train, something she hadn't done in at least a decade, out to Park Ridge. The address Lena had mentioned was easy to find through public records. A modest apartment complex, nothing special, but clean and maintained. The kind of place where people raised families on tight budgets, but with dignity intact. Evelyn stood outside in the cold, looking up at what she guessed had been their unit based on the vacancy notice in the window. She tried to imagine what life had been like there. Noah going to preschool, Lena working her legal assistant job, Marcus coming home from work, probably tired but satisfied, probably kissing his son goodnight and reading him stories about dinosaurs. An ordinary life, the kind she'd never wanted for herself, had thought of as somehow less important than boardrooms and deals and the accumulation of wealth and influence. But standing here, looking at this empty apartment that had once held a family, she understood for the first time what had been lost in her pursuit of more. Not just for her, but for all the people whose lives she'd disrupted in service of corporate efficiency. "Can I help you?" Evelyn turned, An older woman stood behind her, bundled in a worn coat, grocery bags in her hands. "I'm sorry," Evelyn said. "I didn't mean to lurk. I was just, you know the Brooks family?" The woman's face softened. Such a shame what happened to them. Lena was the sweetest thing, always had a kind word. And that little boy, Noah, wasn't it? He used to draw pictures and leave them on everyone's doors. Little dinosaurs mostly. He loved dinosaurs. Did you know them well? Well, as you know anyone in an apartment building. We talked sometimes, waiting for the elevator, checking the mail. She tried so hard after Marcus left. I could hear her crying some nights, through the walls. But the next morning, she'd have that little boy dressed and ready for school, smiling like nothing was wrong. That kind of strength? The woman shook her head. I offered to help, but she was too proud. Said she'd figure it out. And then one day, they were just gone, evicted. I haven't seen them since. If you saw them again, Evelyn asked carefully, what would you say to them? The woman thought about it. I'd say I was sorry. Sorry I didn't try harder to help. Sorry the world can be so cruel to people who don't deserve it. Sorry that being a good person and working hard isn't always enough. She looked at Evelyn curiously. Why? Are you a friend of theirs? Something like that, Evelyn said. She took the train back to the city with her mind racing. That night, unable to settle, she did something else she'd never done. She went to a shelter, not to write a check or attend a gala fundraiser, but to actually walk through the doors and see what happened there. The intake worker looked surprised. People in cashmere coats didn't usually show up at 9 p.m. asking for a tour, but she was kind enough to show Evelyn around. Rows of cots packed so close together there was barely room to walk between them. A smell of too many bodies in too small a space. Sounds of coughing, crying, arguing. Families huddled together, trying to maintain privacy where none existed. Children doing homework on the floor. A mother nursing a baby while her toddler slept curled against her side. We're at capacity, the worker explained. We're always at capacity. For every person we can take in, there are 5 more we have to turn away. And winter's the worst. People die out there. They just freeze, or they get sick and can't recover because they have nowhere to rest. And the kids, she shook her head, the kids break your heart. What do they need most? Evelyn asked. Everything. Money, obviously, but also dignity, jobs, housing, a chance to rebuild. Most people here aren't lazy or drug addicts or whatever stereotypes you see on TV. They're people who had 1 or 2 bad things happen and couldn't recover. They're 1 missed paycheck, 1 medical emergency, 1 bad decision away from everyone else. And once you fall through the cracks, it's almost impossible to climb back out. Evelyn thought about Lena, about Marcus, about Noah learning to expect nothing good from the world. What if someone wanted to help? She asked. Really help. Not just write a check, but actually create pathways back to stability. The worker looked at her with weary hope. Then I'd say that person would be a miracle, because that's what it would take. Evelyn left the shelter with her mind made up. She knew what she needed to do. It wouldn't fix everything. It couldn't undo the past, but it was a start. On New Year's Eve, while the rest of Chicago prepared to celebrate, Evelyn sat at her dining table and drafted a proposal, not for a consulting project, but for something new, something that might actually matter. The Hartman Second Chance Initiative. She worked through the night, fueled by coffee and purpose. A program within her company focused on hiring people who'd been displaced by corporate restructuring, not just hers, but anyone's, providing not just jobs, but training, support, benefits, creating a pipeline from homelessness or near homelessness back to stability, partnering with housing organizations to ensure that employment came with a place to live, offering childcare support because how could single parents work without it? It was ambitious. It would be expensive. Her board would hate it. She didn't care. At midnight, while fireworks exploded over Navy Pier, Evelyn looked at the small red dinosaur sitting on her table. Ruby, a child's treasure, given freely to a stranger. "I'm going to try," she told the toy dinosaur. "I'm going to try to fix some of what I broke." The dinosaur didn't answer, of course. But in the silence of her apartment, with the new year arriving and the old one finally dying, Evelyn felt something she hadn't felt in decades. Hope. On January 2nd, she presented the proposal to her senior team. She saw their skepticism, their concern about profit margins, their barely concealed confusion about why their boss had suddenly developed a conscience. "This isn't charity," she told them. "This is correction. For years, we've helped companies become more efficient by removing their excess labor. But we never followed up on what happened to those people. We never calculated the human cost of our recommendations. Well, I'm calculating it now, and the cost is too high. So we're going to do something about it." With all due respect, Ms. Hartman, her CFO said carefully, "this could cost millions. It could affect our competitive position. Our shareholders will understand that a company built entirely on optimizing profits at the expense of human welfare is not a company I want to run anymore," Evelyn interrupted. "We can be successful and conscientious. We can make money and make amends. And if we can't, then maybe we don't deserve to be successful." The room fell silent. She saw them exchanging glances, probably wondering if she'd had some kind of breakdown. Maybe she had. Or maybe she'd finally woken up. "I need a team on this," she continued. "People who can build this program from the ground up. People who understand that the goal isn't to look good or get tax breaks, but to actually help people rebuild their lives. And I need it to start immediately." "Who will run it?" her head of HR asked. Evelyn thought about Lena, about her legal assistant background, about how she'd managed to keep her son clean and fed and hopeful despite losing everything. "I might have someone in mind," she said slowly. "Someone who understands exactly what we're trying to fix." That afternoon, Evelyn pulled out her phone and looked at the text thread with Lena. She'd saved the number. She hadn't reached out since that Christmas morning photo of Noah. She'd wanted to respect their privacy, their dignity. But now, she typed carefully, "This is Evelyn, from Christmas Eve. I hope you and Noah are doing okay. I have a question for you. Would you be willing to meet for coffee?" The response came 20 minutes later. "We're managing, staying with someone who knew my sister. It's temporary, but it's warm. Why coffee?" Evelyn hesitated, then decided honesty was the only approach. "Because I have a job offer for you. And before you say no, I need you to hear me out. Please." This time the response took longer. 5 minutes, 10. Finally. "Okay. When?" They met 2 days later at a Starbucks in Lincoln Park, neutral territory. Lena arrived exactly on time, wearing the same clothes Evelyn remembered from Christmas Eve, but clean and pressed. Her hair was pulled back. She looked exhausted but determined. Noah wasn't with her. "He's in school," Lena explained before Evelyn could ask. "I enrolled him in a public program. They have breakfast and lunch, so at least I know he's eating." They ordered coffee. Evelyn paid, ignoring Lena's protest, and sat in a corner booth. "So," Lena said, "a job offer. Doing what? And why me?" Evelyn had rehearsed this conversation a dozen times. Now, sitting across from this woman whose life she'd helped destroy, the rehearsed words felt inadequate. "My company is starting a new initiative," she began. "We're creating a program to help people who've been displaced by corporate restructuring, people who've fallen through the cracks, get back on their feet, real jobs, real support, housing assistance, childcare, training, everything someone would need to rebuild." Lena listened, her expression unreadable. "I want you to help run it," Evelyn continued. "You have the legal background, but more importantly, you have lived experience. You know what it's like to fall. You know what people need because you need it yourself. You know how the system fails because it's failed you. Why would you trust me with something like that?" Lena asked quietly. You don't know me. I know enough. I know you kept your son safe and fed and hopeful through 3 months on the streets. I know you maintained his dignity when you had every reason to give up on your own. I know you're smart and capable, and you understand suffering in a way that can't be taught. Lena was quiet for a long moment. Then, what happened? Why are you doing this? This was the moment. The moment Evelyn could lie, could deflect, could maintain her comfortable distance, or she could tell the truth. She pulled the small red dinosaur from her pocket and set it on the table between them. Noah gave me this on Christmas Eve. Do you remember? Lena nodded, looking confused. There's writing on the bottom, a phone number, a company name. I didn't see it until after you left. Evelyn took a deep breath. The company was one I consulted for 2 years ago. My firm recommended they eliminate 23 positions from their software engineering department. Your ex-husband was one of them. She watched the realization dawn on Lena's face. Watched understanding turn to shock, then to something harder to identify. Lena's voice was barely a whisper. You're the reason. Yes, Evelyn said simply. I didn't know his name. Didn't know about you or Noah. He was just a line item in a spreadsheet, just a position to be eliminated for the sake of efficiency. But that line item was a person, and that decision destroyed a family, your family. So yes, I'm the reason. Lena stood up abruptly. Evelyn thought she would leave, thought she would walk out and never look back, and she couldn't have blamed her. But instead, Lena just stood there, hands pressed flat on the table, breathing hard. Say something, Evelyn said quietly. Please. I don't know what to say. Lena's voice shook. You're telling me that you destroyed my life, and now you want to give me a job, that you want me to help you feel better about all the other lives you've destroyed? Is this guilt? Penance? What is this? It's all of that, Evelyn admitted. But it's also a genuine offer, a genuine program. I can't undo what I did. I can't bring back those 2 years, but I can try to make sure it doesn't keep happening. And I need someone who understands the cost to help me do it right. Why should I trust you? You shouldn't, Evelyn said flatly. I haven't earned trust, but I'm asking you to take a chance anyway, not for me, for yourself, for Noah, for everyone else out there fighting like you've been fighting. Lena sat back down slowly. She looked at the small dinosaur on the table. He misses that toy, asks about it every day. I'll give it back. Of course I'll give it back. No. Lena's voice was firm. He gave it to you for a reason. Some part of him understood you needed it more than he did. Kids see things adults miss. They sat in silence. Around them, the coffee shop hummed with normal life. People on laptops, friends meeting for drinks, students studying. All of them living in the same city, but different worlds. What would the job entail exactly? Lena asked finally. Evelyn felt something loosen in her chest. Not hope, not yet, but possibility. You'd work directly with me to build the program, interview candidates, design support systems, partner with housing organizations and social services. You'd have a real salary, benefits, childcare assistance, and... She paused. There's an apartment in one of the buildings we manage. It's yours if you want it. 2 bedrooms, safe neighborhood, near a good school. Lena's hands were shaking. You're offering me my life back. I'm offering you a chance to build a new one. It won't be the same. It can't be. But it could be good. It could be stable. And it could help a lot of other people avoid what you've been through. I need to think about it, Lena said. I need to talk to Noah, make sure this is real and not some, I don't know, fever dream. Take all the time you need. But Lena? Evelyn waited until the other woman met her eyes. I'm sorry. For what happened to Marcus. For what happened to you and Noah. For every decision I made that hurt people I never saw. I'm so profoundly sorry. Lena nodded slowly. Okay, she said. Okay. Lena didn't call for 3 days. Evelyn didn't push. She knew what she was asking, for Lena to trust the person who'd set her downfall in motion, to work alongside the architect of her family's destruction. It was absurd, possibly cruel, definitely complicated in ways that couldn't be solved with good intentions alone. But on the 4th day, Evelyn's phone rang. I want to see it, Lena said without preamble. The apartment, the office. I want to see what this actually is before I decide. Of course. When? Today, now, before I lose my nerve. They met at the building an hour later, a renovated brownstone in Ravenswood, solidly middle class, the kind of neighborhood where kids played on sidewalks and people knew their neighbors' names. Evelyn had chosen it specifically. Not too fancy to feel fake, not too humble to feel like charity, just normal, safe. Lena stood on the sidewalk staring up at it, Noah's hand clasped tightly in hers. The boy had insisted on coming, and Evelyn understood why. This decision affected him as much as his mother, maybe more. 3rd floor, Evelyn said, leading them inside. The building smelled like fresh paint and wood polish. In the lobby, a bulletin board advertised a community potluck and a lost cat. Evidence of life being lived. The apartment was simple. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a kitchen with actual counter space, a living room with windows that let in afternoon light. It was furnished, basically. Evelyn had arranged that, but left room for personal touches, for Lena and Noah to make it theirs. Noah ran from room to room, his footsteps echoing on the hardwood floors. Mama, Mama, look, I can see the park from this window. And this room has a closet big enough for all my dinosaurs when I get more dinosaurs. Lena stood frozen in the living room, one hand pressed to her mouth. It's too much, she whispered. It's appropriate, Evelyn corrected gently. It's what an employee in your position would receive as part of a comprehensive benefits package. Nothing more, nothing less. I haven't even said yes yet. I know, but you needed to see it to make an informed decision. Lena walked slowly through the space, touching walls like she couldn't quite believe they were solid. She opened the refrigerator. Evelyn had stocked it with basics, milk and eggs and bread, things a mother would need, and her composure finally cracked. She leaned against the counter and cried, silent tears that spoke of relief and grief and exhaustion so deep it had bones. Evelyn stayed where she was, giving her space. Noah ran back from exploring the bedrooms and wrapped himself around his mother's legs. Don't be sad, Mama, he said. This is a happy place, I can tell. I know, baby, Lena managed. I'm crying because I'm happy. Sometimes that happens. That's weird, Noah said seriously. But okay. After a few minutes, Lena pulled herself together. She wiped her face, took a deep breath, and turned to Evelyn. Show me the office, she said. Show me what the actual work would be. They left Noah with a neighbor Evelyn had arranged, a grandmother type who ran an informal after-school program and had immediately fallen in love with the earnest little boy who asked very serious questions about whether dinosaurs would have liked cookies. Then they took Evelyn's car downtown to the Hartman Solutions Group headquarters. The building was everything Lena's potential apartment wasn't. Sleek, modern, expensive, glass and steel reaching toward the sky. The kind of place where power lived. Lena went very quiet as they rode the elevator to the executive floor. This is intimidating, she said softly. It's meant to be, Evelyn replied. But you belong here just as much as anyone. Remember that. The executive floor was largely empty. It was Saturday, and most people were home with their families. Evelyn led Lena to a conference room with windows overlooking the city. Spread across the table were documents, proposals, organizational charts, the skeleton of the Second Chance Initiative. This is where we'd work, Evelyn explained. At least initially, building the program. You'd have your own office, of course. But this would be our war room, where we figure out how to actually help people instead of just talking about it. Lena moved to the table, her fingers trailing over the papers. She picked up one, a list of partner organizations, shelters, job training programs. Another showed a proposed salary structure. A third outlined the selection criteria for program participants. "You've really thought this through," she said. "I've thought about nothing else since Christmas Eve." Lena picked up another document, this one showing a preliminary budget. Her eyes widened. This is millions of dollars." "Yes. Your board approved this." "My board doesn't have a choice. I'm the majority shareholder, they can advise, but ultimately, this is my decision. They must think you've lost your mind. They probably do." Evelyn smiled slightly. "Maybe I have, or maybe I've just found it again." Lena was quiet for a long moment, reading through the documents. Then she asked the question Evelyn had been waiting for. "Why me? Really? You could hire someone with more experience. Someone with a degree in social work or nonprofit management. Someone who isn't." She gestured vaguely at herself. "Someone who isn't broken." "You're not broken," Evelyn said firmly. "You're surviving. There's a difference. And I want you specifically because you have what no degree can teach. You know what it feels like to be on the other side, to be the person these programs are supposed to help. You'll know if we're doing it right because you've lived it. That's worth more than any credential. What if I'm not good at it? What if I fail? Then we'll figure it out together. This whole thing is an experiment. We'll make mistakes, but at least we'll be making mistakes in the right direction." Lena set down the papers and walked to the window. Below, Chicago spread out in all its complicated glory. From up here, you couldn't see the people struggling on the streets, couldn't see the families in shelters or the children going to bed hungry. From up here, everything looked clean and manageable. "I hate that view," Lena said suddenly. "I hate how it makes everything look simple." "So do I," Evelyn admitted. "I spent years looking at cities from rooms like this, making decisions that affected thousands of people I never had to look in the eye. It made everything easier, cleaner, but it wasn't real. And now? Now I want to work from ground level, where the consequences live." Lena turned to face her. "I need to know something, and I need you to be completely honest. Is this really about helping people, or is it about easing your conscience?" It was a fair question. Evelyn had asked herself the same thing 100 times. "Both," she said. "I'd be lying if I said guilt wasn't part of it. But guilt alone wouldn't make me commit millions of dollars and restructure my entire company philosophy. I'm doing this because I finally understand that success built on other people's suffering isn't success at all. It's just expensive emptiness, and I'm tired of being empty." "What happened to him?" Lena asked suddenly. "To Marcus. Do you know?" Evelyn had been dreading this question. "I looked," she admitted. "I found what I could. After he left you, he moved to Indiana, got a job at a smaller tech company, but it didn't last. The last address I found was a rooming house in Gary, but the trail goes cold after that. I'm sorry." Lena nodded slowly. "I used to hate him for leaving, for giving up on us, but I understand it better now. When everything falls apart, when you can't provide for your family, when you stop recognizing yourself in the mirror, some people run, not because they don't love you, but because they can't bear watching you suffer from something they caused." "He didn't cause it," Evelyn said quietly. "I did. You pushed the first domino, but he chose to let it knock him down. He chose to drink. He chose to leave. You own your part, but he owns his too." Lena looked at Evelyn directly. "Just like I own mine. I could have asked for help sooner, could have swallowed my pride. could have made different choices. We all carry pieces of what happened. That's how life works. That's very generous of you. It's not generous, it's survival. Blame doesn't keep you warm at night. It doesn't feed your kid. At some point, you have to decide if you're going to spend your energy being angry at the past or building a different future. Evelyn felt something shift in her chest. This woman who'd lost everything, who had every right to rage and accuse and demand, was offering grace. Not forgiveness, exactly, but something equally valuable: perspective. "So what do you think?" Evelyn asked. "About the job, about all of this?" Lena was quiet for so long that Evelyn thought she would say no, thought she would walk away, find her own path forward, refuse to let her future be shaped by the person who damaged her past. But then Lena smiled, small, cautious, but real. "I think Noah needs stability. I think I need purpose. And I think maybe the universe has a weird sense of humor, putting us in the same room on Christmas Eve." She took a deep breath. "Yes, I'll do it, but on one condition. Name it. You don't get to treat me like a charity case. If I'm doing this job, I'm doing it because I'm good at it, not because you feel guilty. You push me. You expect excellence. You treat me like any other employee. Deal." Evelyn extended her hand. Deal. They shook on it, and Evelyn felt the weight of the small red dinosaur in her pocket. She'd carried it with her every day since Christmas Eve, a reminder of what she'd done and what she needed to fix. "There's one more thing," Evelyn said. She pulled out Ruby and set the toy on the conference table. "This belongs to Noah. I've been borrowing it, but it's time to give it back." Lena looked at the small plastic dinosaur, worn smooth by a child's love. "He gave it to you for a reason. And now I'm giving it back for a reason, because he shouldn't have to give up his treasures. Not anymore." Lena picked up the toy carefully, cradling it in her palm. "He's going to be so happy." "Will you tell him?" Evelyn asked. "About the connection, about what I did?" "Someday," Lena said. "And when he's old enough to understand that people are complicated, that they make mistakes and try to fix them, that the world isn't divided into good guys and bad guys, but into people trying their best with the light they have." "That's very wise." "I've had a lot of time to think," Lena said dryly. "Not much to do on cold nights in a doorway except think." They spent the next hour going over details. Start date, immediately. Salary. Evelyn had researched market rates for program directors and offered the high-end benefits, comprehensive, including mental health support because Lena would need it. Childcare, arranged through a program in Noah's new school. It was real. It was happening. When they finally left the building, the sun was setting, painting the city in shades of gold and amber. On the sidewalk, Lena stopped and turned to Evelyn. "Thank you," she said, "for seeing us, for caring, for trying to make it right." "Thank you," Evelyn replied, "for giving me a chance to be better than I've been." They parted ways at the corner, Lena heading back to collect Noah, Evelyn to her empty penthouse. But the emptiness felt different now, less like a void and more like space waiting to be filled with something that mattered. That night, Evelyn sat at her dining table and made a list, not of profit margins or strategic initiatives, but of names. Every person her company had displaced, every family affected by her recommendations. It was a long list, an overwhelming list. She couldn't help them all, couldn't fix everything she'd broken, but she could start. She pulled out her phone and texted Gloria. "First day of the new program is Monday. We're going to need all hands on deck. Time to change how we do business." Gloria's response came immediately. "About time." Evelyn smiled. Maybe everyone had been waiting for her to wake up, waiting for her to realize that success measured only in dollars was a poverty of its own. She looked out at the city, at all the lights representing all the lives being lived in ways she'd never see. Somewhere out there, Lena was tucking Noah into a real bed for the first time in months. Somewhere out there, families were struggling with consequences of decisions made in conference rooms by people who never learned their names. But starting Monday, that would begin to change. It wouldn't fix everything. It wouldn't undo the past. But it was something. And something, Evelyn was learning, was how you built toward everything. Monday morning arrived cold and bright, the kind of January day that made Chicago look like a postcard. All blue sky and white snow and crystalline light that made everything sharp-edged and clear. Evelyn was in her office by 6 a.m., unable to sleep, unable to wait. Today wasn't just another workday. Today was the beginning of something that might actually matter. Lena arrived at 8:30, exactly on time. She wore an outfit that Evelyn recognized as new. Simple black pants and a blue blouse, professional but not expensive. Probably purchased with the advance Evelyn had insisted on giving her. Her hair was pulled back, and she carried a worn leather bag that looked like it had survived the streets with her. She looked nervous, determined, ready. "Good morning," Evelyn said, meeting her at the elevator. "How's Noah?" "Happy, confused. He woke up 3 times last night to make sure the apartment was still real." Lena's smile was soft. "He wanted me to thank you again. He's been carrying Ruby around all weekend, telling her about their new room." They walked together to the conference room that would serve as their headquarters. Inside, Evelyn had assembled a small team. Gloria, her assistant who'd proven invaluable in pulling together the initial research. David Chen from HR, who specialized in alternative hiring practices. Maria Rodriguez from their legal department, who understood employment law. And James Washington, a former social worker Evelyn had recruited specifically for this initiative. "Everyone," Evelyn said as they entered, "this is Lena Brooks. She's going to be the director of the Second Chance Initiative. Lena, this is the team that's going to help us change lives." She watched them shake hands, watched Lena's nervousness slowly ease as the team welcomed her with genuine warmth. They were good people, Evelyn realized. She'd surrounded herself with good people and had somehow never noticed before, too busy chasing metrics and margins. The first meeting lasted 3 hours. They discussed logistics, timelines, candidate criteria. Lena spoke quietly at first, then with growing confidence as she realized these people were actually listening to her. She had insights they'd never considered, about how job interviews felt when you'd been sleeping in your car, about why asking for 3 references was impossible when you'd lost all your professional contacts, about how the simple act of requiring an address for an application eliminated the people who needed help most. "We need to meet people where they are," Lena said firmly, "not where we think they should be. If someone shows up to an interview in donated clothes, we don't hold that against them. If they don't have a permanent address, we help them get one. If they have gaps in their employment history because they were surviving, we count that as work experience because it is." David was taking notes furiously. This is exactly what we needed, the perspective we couldn't get from textbooks or case studies. "How many people can we help in the first phase?" Maria asked. "Let's start with 20, Evelyn decided. 20 people we can truly support, with full resources, rather than 100 we do halfway. We prove the model works, then we scale." 20 families, Lena corrected softly. When you help one person, you help everyone connected to them. 20 people means 40, 60, 100 lives changed. Remember that. Evelyn felt something catch in her throat. "You're right. 20 families. Let's make that our metric." They worked through lunch, ordering sandwiches from the deli down the street. Around 2 p.m., James brought up the question Evelyn had been waiting for. "How do we source candidates? How do we find the people who need this most?" "We start with the past," Evelyn said. She'd prepared for this moment, rehearsed it, but now that it was here, the words felt heavy. "My company has recommended thousands of terminations over the years. We start by reaching out to those people, offering them a path back. It won't work for everyone. Many will have moved on, found other jobs, rebuilt their lives, but some haven't, and those are the ones we find first. She saw understanding dawn on their faces, saw them realize what this really was, not just a jobs program, but an act of restitution. That's going to take significant resources to track people down, David said carefully. Years of data. Multiple industries, different states. I know. That's why we're hiring a dedicated research team, and why we're starting immediately. Evelyn pulled up a spreadsheet on the conference room screen. Names, thousands of them. All the people her recommendations had displaced. This is where we begin. Lena stared at the screen, and Evelyn wondered if she was looking for Marcus's name, if seeing it listed there among so many others made it easier or harder. Some of these people won't want our help, Lena said quietly. They'll be angry. They'll see this as too little, too late. We need to be prepared for that. Agreed, Evelyn said. This isn't about making ourselves feel better. It's about offering genuine support to people who've been harmed. If they reject it, we respect that. But we make the offer. The meeting ended with assignments. David would work with Lena on developing the interview and selection process. Maria would handle the legal framework and partnership agreements. James would connect with social service organizations. Gloria would coordinate everything and keep them on schedule. And Evelyn would oversee it all, making sure they stayed true to the mission. As the team filed out, Lena lingered behind. That list, she said, gesturing to the screen. All those names. Do you remember any of them? No, Evelyn admitted. That's the problem. They were always just names, just numbers, just line items to be eliminated. I never thought about them as people with families and mortgages and dreams until I met you and Noah. And now I can't stop thinking about them, about all the Noahs out there who watched their worlds fall apart because someone like me decided it was necessary for profit margins. Lena was quiet for a moment. Then, you can't save everyone. You know that, right? Some people are too far gone. Some won't want help. Some will take what you offer and squander it. You can't let that stop you, but you can't let it destroy you either. When did you get so wise? When I didn't have a choice. Lena smiled sadly. Suffering either breaks you or teaches you. I decided to let it teach. Over the next 6 weeks, the program took shape. They hired researchers who tracked down former employees. They partnered with housing organizations and job training programs. They created a support system that addressed not just employment, but all the interconnected challenges that kept people trapped in poverty: childcare, transportation, healthcare, legal issues. And slowly, carefully, they reached out to the first candidates. Some responses were angry. Too late. Go to hell. You destroyed my life, and now you want to help. Where were you 2 years ago? Evelyn read every message, absorbed every justified accusation, and didn't defend herself. She'd earned their anger, but others were cautiously hopeful, desperate enough to take a chance, willing to see if this second chance was real. The first interview was with a woman named Sarah Chen, 42, single mother of 2. She'd been a project manager at a manufacturing company before Hartman Solutions had recommended eliminating her entire department. She'd been unemployed for 18 months, burned through her savings, lost her house, and was living with her elderly parents in a 1-bedroom apartment with her kids sleeping on the couch. Lena conducted the interview with Evelyn observing. She watched Lena put Sarah at ease, asking questions that focused on skills and potential rather than gaps and failures. She watched Sarah's guarded hope slowly emerge, fragile as new ice. "Why should I trust you?" Sarah asked finally. "Why should I believe this is real and not some PR stunt?" "Because the woman interviewing you lived in her car 3 months ago," Lena said bluntly. "Because the woman funding this program is the one whose company displaced you, and she's trying to make it right. Because we're not promising magic, just genuine support. You'll work. We'll provide the framework that makes work possible. That's the deal. Sarah studied them both for a long moment. Then she nodded. Okay, I'm in. She became the first participant in the Second Chance initiative. Over the following weeks, 19 more joined her. A former accountant who'd been homeless for 6 months, a IT specialist who'd been living in his brother's basement, an administrative assistant who'd been working 3 part-time jobs to feed her kids. Each one had a story. Each one bore the scars of economic displacement, and each one received not just a job, but comprehensive support, housing assistance through partnerships with nonprofit organizations, childcare subsidies, transportation vouchers, health insurance from day one, and perhaps most importantly, dignity. They were treated as valuable employees, not charity cases. Their past struggles were acknowledged but not used to define them. Lena threw herself into the work with an intensity that sometimes worried Evelyn. She was at the office by 7 and rarely left before 6. She met with every candidate personally. She checked in with them weekly, troubleshooting problems before they became crises. She was building something that reflected her own journey, the support system she wished had existed when she needed it. You need to slow down, Evelyn told her one evening when they were the only ones left in the office. You'll burn out. I can't slow down, Lena said, not looking up from her laptop. Every day we waste is another day someone's suffering. Another day a kid goes to bed hungry or scared. I can't slow down when I remember what that feels like. You can't help anyone if you collapse. Lena finally looked up, and Evelyn saw exhaustion in her eyes, but also purpose. Do you know what the worst part of being homeless was? It wasn't the cold or the hunger or even the fear. It was the invisibility. Walking past thousands of people every day who looked right through you like you didn't exist, like you didn't matter. I can't do that to these people. I can't make them wait while I take care of myself. They've waited long enough. Evelyn understood. She felt the same urgency, the same desperate need to fix what she'd broken. But she also knew that sustainable change required sustainable effort. What if we hire more staff? She suggested. Bring in people to help share the load. You shouldn't be carrying this alone. We should, Lena agreed. But they need to be people who understand, who've lived it or at least witnessed it up close, not social workers who learned about poverty in textbooks. Then let's find them. Let me put out word. Let's build a team of people who've been through the fire and came out wanting to help others through it. Lena nodded slowly. Okay, but carefully. We can't compromise what we're building. They put out a call, and applications flooded in. People who'd been homeless or nearly homeless. People who'd been displaced by corporate restructuring and clawed their way back. People who understood that poverty wasn't a moral failing, but a structural problem that required structural solutions. They hired 5 more people, carefully vetted, each bringing their own insights and passion. The program expanded. 20 families became 30, then 40. The model was working. 3 months in, Evelyn received a call from a journalist at the Chicago Tribune. Word had leaked about the Second Chance initiative, and they wanted to do a story. Absolutely not, was Evelyn's first response. Why not? Gloria asked. This is exactly the kind of positive press that could... This isn't about press, Evelyn interrupted. This isn't about making my company look good. These are real people with real dignity. I won't parade their suffering for headlines. But Lena disagreed. Actually, she said carefully, maybe we should. Not to glorify you or Hartman Solutions, but to show other companies that this is possible, that they can do it too, that there's a better way. The participants would have to agree, Evelyn said firmly. No one gets interviewed who doesn't want to be. No one's story gets told without their explicit permission. They put it to a vote among the program participants. 17 out of 40 agreed to be interviewed. Sarah Chen was one of them. The article ran on a Sunday in April. The headline read, "From Displacement to Second Chances. one company's attempt at corporate redemption. It was fair, balanced, and honest. It didn't shy away from the fact that Hartman Solutions had caused the very problems it was now trying to solve. It quoted Evelyn acknowledging her role in creating harm. It quoted Lena on the realities of homelessness and economic displacement. And it profiled several participants, showing the human faces behind the statistics. The response was overwhelming. Other companies called, wanting to know how to implement similar programs. Foundations offered funding. Universities wanted to study the model. And most importantly, people who'd been displaced by corporate restructuring reached out, hoping for a chance. The wait list grew to over 200 names. "We need to expand," David said at their weekly meeting. "The demand is there. The model works. We have proof of concept. But we can't compromise quality," Lena insisted. "We can't help 500 people poorly instead of 50 people well." "What if we franchise it?" James suggested. "Teach other companies how to build their own programs, share what we've learned, create a network of second-chance initiatives across industries." Evelyn looked at Lena. This was her program as much as Evelyn's now, maybe more. "What do you think?" Lena was quiet for a long moment, staring at the spreadsheet of names on her screen. 200 people waiting, 200 families, 1,000 lives hanging in limbo. "I think we start training other companies," she said finally. "But we maintain standards. Any company that wants to participate has to commit to full support. Housing, childcare, healthcare, dignified treatment, no half measures, no PR stunts. Real change or nothing." "Agreed," Evelyn said. They spent the next 6 months building the framework for expansion, creating training programs, developing best practices, setting standards. Lena proved to be a gifted teacher, conducting workshops where she shared both the mechanics of the program and the philosophy behind it. "These aren't employees you're rescuing," she told a room full of HR directors from major corporations. "These are skilled people who've been knocked down by circumstances often outside their control. Your job isn't to save them, it's to remove the barriers that keep them from saving themselves." By October, 12 other companies had launched similar initiatives. Some were successful. Some failed because they didn't commit fully, treating it as a PR campaign rather than a genuine mission. But the successful ones changed hundreds of lives. The Second Chance initiative itself had helped 93 families by the 1-year anniversary, 93 families with stable housing, 93 families with steady income, and perhaps most importantly, 93 families with hope that had been missing. On the anniversary, Evelyn organized a small celebration at the office. Nothing fancy, just cake and coffee and a chance for everyone to reflect on what they'd built. The program participants came, some bringing their children. Sarah Chen brought her 2 kids, both thriving now in their new school. A man named Robert Williams brought his elderly mother, who cried when she thanked Evelyn for giving her son back his dignity. And Lena brought Noah. He'd grown in the past year, still small for his age, but healthier. His clothes fit properly. His eyes were bright. He carried Ruby, the red plastic dinosaur, in his pocket, no longer his only possession, but still his favorite. Evelyn watched him move through the crowd, polite and curious, asking adults questions about their jobs and what they did. She watched Lena watch him and saw a mother's fierce pride mixed with the lingering fear of someone who knew how quickly everything could fall apart. "He's doing well," Evelyn said, moving to stand beside Lena. "He is. He loves his school, he's making friends. He asks for seconds at dinner because he knows there will be seconds." Lena's voice caught. "He's learning to be a kid again instead of a survivor. And you? I'm learning too. How to trust that the floor won't disappear. How to plan for a future instead of just surviving the present. How to be angry at the past without letting it consume me." She looked at Evelyn. How to forgive. Maybe. Not forget. Never forget. But forgive. I don't deserve that. It's not about what you deserve. It's about what I need to move forward. Lena smiled. Besides, you're doing the work, real work, making real change. That matters. Noah ran up to them, excited. Miss Evelyn, I drew you a picture. Want to see? I'd love to. He pulled out a piece of paper folded multiple times. When Evelyn unfolded it, she saw a crayon drawing of the office building, with stick figures in the windows. One figure was labeled Mama. Another was labeled Miss Evelyn. Between them was a red dinosaur, much bigger than the people, standing guard. Ruby's protecting you both, Noah explained seriously. Because you're doing important work. She told me so. Evelyn knelt down to his level. Thank you, Noah. This is the best gift anyone's ever given me. You're welcome. Mama says you helped us when nobody else would, so now we help you. That's how it works. Out of the mouths of babes, again. The celebration wound down as evening approached. People left in pairs and groups, talking and laughing, making plans to meet outside of work. A community had formed, Evelyn realized. Not just a program, but a network of people who understood each other's struggles and celebrated each other's victories. As the last participants departed, Evelyn found herself alone in her office. The sun was setting over Chicago, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. From up here, the city looked peaceful, beautiful, even. But Evelyn knew what existed below the surface, knew the struggles continuing in doorways and shelters and cars parked in dark corners, knew that for every person they'd helped, hundreds more still suffered. The work wasn't done, would never be done, really. But it was happening. It mattered. She pulled out the small red dinosaur from her desk drawer. Noah had given it back to her 3 months ago, saying Ruby had told him that Miss Evelyn still needed her. She'd tried to refuse, but Noah had been insistent. She helps you remember, he'd said. Remember why the work is important. He was right. Every time Evelyn felt tired or discouraged or tempted to take the easier path, she looked at Ruby and remembered. Remembered a little boy's face pressed against a restaurant window, expecting nothing. Remembered his mother's dignity in the face of impossible circumstances. Remembered how close they'd come to being just more statistics, more casualties of corporate efficiency. Her phone buzzed. A text from Lena. Thank you for everything, for seeing us, for caring, for building something that matters. Noah and I are grateful every single day, Evelyn typed back. Thank you for teaching me what matters, for being brave enough to take a chance, for making me a better person. 3 dots appeared, then, we're all still learning. That's the beauty of second chances. Evelyn set her phone down and looked out at the city again. Somewhere out there, 93 families were living different lives than they'd been living a year ago. Somewhere out there, children were sleeping in warm beds and eating regular meals and planning for futures that included college and careers and dreams bigger than just survival. And somewhere out there, more families waited. More people needed second chances. The work would continue. The model would expand. Other companies would join the mission, some successfully, some not. There would be setbacks and failures and people they couldn't help. But there would also be victories. More Sarahs, more Roberts, more Lenas and Noahs who got to rebuild their lives with dignity and support. Evelyn picked up Ruby one more time, holding the small plastic dinosaur up to the fading light. Such a simple thing. A child's toy. But also a reminder of what she'd almost missed, what she'd been blind to for so long. Thank you, she whispered to the toy, feeling foolish but not caring. For finding me that night. For showing me what really matters. The dinosaur didn't answer, of course. But in the quiet of her office, with the city lights beginning to sparkle below and the sky darkening above, Evelyn felt something she hadn't felt in years. Peace. Not the peace of having fixed everything. Not the peace of absolution or redemption fully earned. But the peace of knowing she was finally on the right path. of knowing that success wasn't measured in profit margins, but in lives changed. In children who got to be children, in parents who got to provide, in people who got to rebuild with dignity and hope. She placed Ruby on her desk, right next to her computer where she'd see it every day. A permanent reminder. A small guardian watching over work that actually mattered. Outside, night fell on Chicago. Inside, Evelyn Hartman began planning tomorrow's work. There were more people to help, more families waiting for their second chance, more children who needed to learn that the world could be good. The work was just beginning, but it was work worth doing. And in the end, that was all that mattered. Thank you for listening.